See, here, togetherness was not a doctrine or a theory they taught on Sunday morning. It was lived and practiced. I don't know that we're really structured to experience that. Those are some of the things that, again, the leadership team here, and I'm spending time thinking, how do we reorganize ourselves so that there can be greater community? I know you experience it a little bit. You have some of these natural pockets of community, and that's good. That's good. I know there's others, you're closer to certain people here, and that's all okay. That's all positive. But to build pockets of community here, if we're going to grow, and if we expect God to work and want that to happen, then we have to start acting like a larger congregation. Because when it's just us and we're good and we know everyone, that's going to be great. But what about when we are at 100 people? You can't know that many people. You can't be an authentic community with them. So you almost have to find your church within the church. When 3,000 people were baptized on the day of Pentecost after the resurrection of Christ, they weren't one single group. They had to go meet in different homes. And they found true community in a smaller group of people because they were connected to that small group. They were connected to the larger group. They were connected to the universal church. Authentic community, caring for one another. Again, I didn't ask permission, so I'm not going to give you specifics, but this week, there's been so much caring behind the scenes. There have been individuals helping people out and doing extra things, and almost acting like family with each other. Authentic community is going to be a part of a healthy, growing church. People are hungry to belong and to be loved. And to be real honest with you, you don't even have to have Jesus in your community to draw people with belonging and loving them. You know, the worst street gang in inner city LA, you know how they draw people? Belonging and beloving. That's how powerful it is. This hardened street gang in downtown LA is better at providing authentic community than the church of Jesus Christ. Let's change that. Let's change that. Authentic community. Let's look at the final one. Number 7 of 10. Verse 45. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Now, at one level, our congregation, our church is pretty good about caring for people. There's money that helps people. We love to help people outside. We're also going to help people inside. Now, part of it is not just, I want you to know that we're very responsible with that. It's not just, okay, someone needs money, let's just throw money at them. It's like, no, let's help take care of the short-term need, but let's help set you free from whatever the financial bondage that you have. Let's take a look at some things and show you and apply God's principles to that place, including your finances. So that you can not just, because I know it doesn't feel good to be a taker. It feels good when you're a giver. It's more blessed to give than to receive. If you need to receive, come and let us know. If anyone ever in our church goes hungry and we don't know about it, you're in trouble with the preacher, let me tell you, okay? You're in trouble with the preacher. We are going to care with our extravagant generosity. 2 ways that this shows itself. One is in a radical caring for one another. In the first century, the early church here is what we have. And the snapshot is a picture of outrageous, extravagant, impractical generosity. And that is true whether it's in the weekly giving that you commit to. Is it radical generosity based on how God has prospered you, as what God how He has blessed you financially? The radical generosity is a mark of a believer. It's one of the few places where it's just an automatic opportunity, an instantaneous opportunity to be different and live a countercultural lifestyle from the world. Because even good people in the world, you don't have to be generous to be considered a good person. You know, there's other things. You have to be honest. If you're a liar, if you're a Christian or not, people are going to look at you and say, that's not a good guy, you know. If you go around gossiping all the time, then Christian or not, you say, we got to watch her, careful. But you can be a good person in the world and not be generous. It was your money. You earned it. Why should you have to share it? You don't have to be generous. So there's an opportunity for those of us who are believers to say, I serve a different way of life led by God. I'm free from that. I don't serve that as an idol. It doesn't have a hold on me, and the proof of it is I will not hold on to it. Because if we have family members who are in need, if we have ministry that can be done, and we're not giving that because we're not being generous, then it compromises our witness, it compromises the love and belonging that we can have, it compromises our health and the health of our congregation, and therefore it will compromise the growth and the outreach of our congregation. Again, our world is obsessed with getting. The church was committed to giving, and giving sacrificially resulted in this joy. It's only in this context, maybe you heard lessons on giving, and it talks about it needs to be sacrificial. It also says, give joyfully. The word literally from the Greek can also be translated hilariously. I don't know about you, some weeks is it tight enough when you put that check in the plate, it's like, this is pretty hilarious actually, because there's no money to cover that check. I don't know that that's what it means. But it's bigger than just this gentle joy inside. They kind of got crazy with it. It wasn't just the ones that, I'm out of money, but I have a mule. I'm going to go sell the mule. Then we can help them even more. Kind of got crazy. This crazy generosity. And what happens is that generosity then fosters other generosity. It's not about, you got to give, you're a bad Christian, we're going to kick you out of this church. Wait a minute, that's not where we're going. It's about whenever you hear an inspiring story from someone, it's kind of the Olympics, right? An inspiring story, you hear that story, and think, wow, they can do that? With all the hardships that they have? Maybe I can do something. So it becomes there. So they had three things: an awareness of God's supernatural power, let God out of the box, come to experience God, and when you pray and you meet with Him, meet expectantly. Authentic community. We're going to keep moving toward deeper and deeper relationship. We use the metaphor of ohana and family, but we're going to actually go and find ways to structure ourselves where that's more and more true of our congregation. Extravagant generosity, mark of the Christian. As strange as some of the events of the Olympics are, I think we all understand some of the draw, the gravity that pulls most of us toward watching. And I think it's because behind every athlete, there's a story. And they do a good job of letting you know their story of hardship and struggle and commitment and dedication and sacrifice. And it's inspiring to know. Our involvement in Indonesia and other places around the world, the Philippines, the project we have coming up, Charles is going to lead us in here soon. And I can't help but think as you watch, certainly we're such a blessed country, you watch on the Olympics, and those who make the U.S. Olympic team, they go and live in Colorado or somewhere, and they have this state of the art, they have these things hooked up to them to judge, do an EKG reading, the oxygen intake, and all this kind of stuff. And I think, what about the runner in Ethiopia? He doesn't even have a pair of shoes, and he's doing it. And they're going to meet in London and compete together. But there's always a story, and even if it's not one of financial hardship, the dedication and struggle that it takes to get there. One of the greatest stories of this last Olympics to me was this, of South African sprinter Oscar Pistorius. Do you know the story? Let me read a little about his story. 25-year-old Oscar Pistorius was born in South Africa. Always an athlete, he played rugby, water polo, and tennis for his high school. In addition, he competed in wrestling clubs and on the side had the hobby of motocross. Pretty well-rounded athlete, you think? After a serious knee injury as a result of a rugby accident, he was introduced to running only in January 2004, 8 years ago, while undergoing rehabilitation for his knee injury. And Oscar has never looked back since. And this past month, Oscar Pistorius fulfilled a dream to compete in the Olympics. So, isn't that every Olympian's story? What's so special about that? Hailed as the fastest man on no legs, Nicknamed the Blade Runner, Oscar Pistorius, from just below the knee, has no legs. Due to a birth defect, Oscar was born without a tibia, the bone between the knee and the ankle, in either leg. At 11 months old, his legs were amputated between his knees and his ankle. Oscar, who grew up in a Christian home, has tattooed on his back a Bible verse, 1 Corinthians 9, about running to win the prize. They told his parents he wouldn't be able to walk. Oscar answered by walking. They told him, "You can't play water polo." Oscar took off his prosthetic limbs, laid them beside the pool, and joined the water polo team. They told him, "You can't play rugby." Oscar answered by playing for his high school. They told him, "You can't ride motocross." Oscar answered by getting on a motorcycle. They told him that it was not possible for a man with no legs to run. Oscar recently answered by anchoring the South African relay team in the 4x400 meter relay in the Olympics of the 2012 Games in London, England. They finally stopped telling Oscar what he can and cannot do. When we talk about church growth, I know there's so many of you as individuals like, "Oh man, Dave, you get me excited, and I think you're right. God wants us to reach out, but you don't understand all the things that are going on in my life. I can't even keep myself above water, much less, contribute, help with those kinds of things." And I want to tell you, as we're talking about church, you understand that God is the same God. And the power is the same power. And the power of prayer is the same power of prayer. And the resources that He gives us to grow as a body, He also offers to you as an individual. Don't think that like, "Oh wow, we talked about church, we didn't talk about my life." But that relationship with God, you have voices telling you, it's not possible. You can't really get rid of that sin in your life. You can't really mend that marriage. You can't really be fully rid of that guilt that you have because of that thing you did. God can't really forgive you of that. But we have the truth. That's Satan whispering into your ear. And when you give him your ear, you give him your mind and your heart. And those things belong to God. And it's God through Scripture who tells you something very different than that. That you can do those things to Him. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. That is true of us as individuals in life, as well as the church, as God calls us to grow. Oscar had plenty of reasons that he could have said, "Oh, that's why I can't do that." I can't help be reminded of Paul. I wish I could show you a picture. I'm looking at a picture of Oscar Pistorius here. And one is a picture from the knees up. He looks just like a typical Olympic athlete. But then when you back out, you see him running. He's running on these carbon fiber J-shaped prosthetics that anchor onto his knee. Fastened down to the hindquarters of a cheetah, the fastest mammal on Earth. And when he runs, you almost can't tell that there's anything missing. See, the world and Satan wants you to focus on what you don't have. You can't beat that. You can't be washed clean. You can't have peace with God. You can't get those finances figured out. You can't do that. God says, in your weakness, that's when I'm strong. Some of the other Olympic runners don't even like that Oscar Pistorius is allowed to run. They say because of his amputation, because of his physical condition, he has an advantage over us. That's Christianity. The world looks and says, "Oh yeah, you need faith, don't you? Oh yeah, you rely on God, don't you? Yeah, Christianity is for weak people. If this is what weakness looks like, give me weakness." And you put God's spiritual prosthetics on, it's almost like cheating. You can do it, and we can.